I've been asked to talk a little bit about what a producer does. In a nutshell, the producer is responsible for every phase of a production. In commercial theater, the producer can decide what play to present, what personnel he would like to present it with. He's responsible for the budget, how he spends the money, and where the money comes from. In nonprofit theater, as in the Shakespeare Festival of St. Louis, it's a little bit different. We work with the board of directors to decide what play we will present. Then we collaborate with them on building a budget. Then the board is responsible for raising the money. That relieves that responsibility from me, and I am able then to concentrate on how to produce the play. When we decide on what play we'll present, we decide if we're going to do it in a professional manner with union talent, with professional actors and designers, or in a non-professional vein. When you decide that, you understand what scope, what size and shape the appearance of the play will have, and you can problem solve. You decide which problems you have and how to solve them. When you know which problems you have to solve, you know what personnel you'll need to achieve the goals of your production. That's called team building. And understanding those things, you'll then know how to administer the budget, and you monitor the spending every step of the way. The Shakespeare Festival of St. Louis is a theater without facility, so the problem solving starts at the very beginning. We have nothing but a patch of grass in a public park. We go from that to a full-scale production. So what do we need at the site, and when will we need it? We bring everything from electricity to porta-johns to tents, everything that the audience needs and everything that the actors need, from nothing to everything in the public park. When we know which of those things we have to solve, we know who we need to achieve those goals, and that's team building. We hire a staff to achieve those goals. We staff the production understanding the limitations of our budget, the time we have to do it in, available personnel. We start with a director who will express what we want the play to say. The director then works with us, and we hire a design team, the sets, costumes, lights, props. We then support those designers with a staff, and then we cast the play. Once the team is in place, rehearsals begin, sets, props, costumes, lights all go into production. When our goal is achieved, it's on opening night. Once the audience is invited in, the theatrical process is complete. We have a theatrical event. That, in a nutshell, is what a producer does.
The producers in most educational theater programs are the school district, who actually puts up the money for the show, and the theater teachers, who choose the shows to produce. The next most powerful person is the director.
Hello, I'm Ron Gibbs, Managing Director of Stages St. Louis. Just prior to moving back to St. Louis to take this job, I was the assistant producer at Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey. And before that, I was an actor and director in New York City for 16 years. I did many Broadway and national touring shows and have directed all over the country and in several other countries. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the functions of the director of a play or musical. The director is usually hired by the producer, and the producer is the person who runs the theater company who has gathered the money to do a show. In commercial venues, like Broadway, the producer has a vision for a show and hires a director to help him realize that vision. In not-for-profit theater companies, like Stages St. Louis, where I work, there's an artistic director who actually hires the director. I've worked for several really great directors, including the Roundabout Theater's Scott Ellis and the legendary Harold Prince. The most important thing I learned from really good directors is that they are all very good collaborators. It takes a lot of people to create a successful show, and the director is the liaison between all of them. The director works with the actors, stage managers, producer, the artistic director, the costume designer, the set and lighting designers, the sound designer, and if it's a musical, the musical director and the choreographer to create the final product. The director might even be involved in the marketing of the show. He or she makes sure that all the pieces fall into place, and that can't be done without a great deal of collaboration. It is his ideas and visual creation that will take place, but he must work very closely with each of the others to make sure they all think of it similarly. It's important that everyone involved understand what the director is looking for in terms of style, intention, and outcome. At the end of the day, it's the director who has the final say-so on matters of the creative concept, and it is his job to communicate openly with everyone involved and stay on budget. Directors take text and make it come alive. They analyze the text and create a vision for bringing it to life. This involves casting the show properly, communicating to all of the designers his vision and how together they might make it into a multidimensional living thing. Then, he teaches the actors and designers to do what it is they do in such a fashion that it brings his idea of the piece across to the audience. This involves coaching and experimenting and melding of the directors and the actors' minds to put it forth just right. It can be an arduous and exhausting process, but there's nothing like it when it all comes together. The director is the teacher, the mentor, the coach, the visionary, the collaborator. The director is the glue that holds together the process of getting the play from the page to the stage.
As Rob and Ron said, it takes a collaboration between a lot of creative people to bring a play from the printed word of a script to a live production. Here are some of those people who make that happen. The music director is responsible for any music in a live show. In a large production, the job may be further divided into vocal coach, who works with the singers, and the conductor, who's in charge of all of the musicians during a musical. The choreographer is responsible for making up all of the dances for the performers in a musical. In larger productions, the choreographer turns over the rehearsals to a kind of assistant choreographer called the dance captain.
The business manager is responsible for keeping the production within budget, spending money and bringing money in through various means, such as ticket sales and advertisements in programs. The business manager is also responsible for ticket sellers, ushers, and concessions.
The designers of a play are responsible for conferring with the director to get the physical environment on stage to work with the director's concept of the play. The designers build models, do color sketches called renderings, or use computerized drawing programs to give the director an idea of what the set, lights, costumes, makeup, and props can look like. The director has the final okay on the designs.
So who is responsible for getting all the sets built and painted, the props prepared, the lights hung, plugged, focused correctly, the costumes sewn, the sound ready, the makeup ready? One person oversees all the technical crews during this preparation period. That person is the technical director. He or she is ultimately responsible for getting everything finished on time and within the budget allotted. Let's take a look at each of the crews the tech director oversees and what they're responsible for. The set crew, or carpenters, led by the master carpenter, are responsible for anything that looks permanent to the audience. These walls, the set of steps, the landing, chair rail, French doors, mounting the light fixtures and chandelier over the stage are all the responsibility of the set crew. The set crew works from the plans of the set designer. The lighting crew, led by the master electrician, is responsible for anything to do with light on the stage. While the set crew mounts the light fixtures on the wall and hangs the chandelier, the light crew is responsible for hooking them up and getting them to actually work. The light crew is also responsible for lighting the stage according to the plans of the lighting designer. Props are different from set because props look movable to the audience, while set pieces look permanent. The props crew is responsible for two types of props. The first is set props. Set props are items that are on stage and look movable when the lights come up. All these furniture pieces, the oriental rug, the barometer on the wall, are all considered set props. It's the responsibility of the props crew to make sure all set props are out on stage in the right places before the audience first sees the setting. Hand props are anything an actor brings on stage with him or her. These keys, this newspaper, this wallet are all hand props. It's the actor's responsibility to pick up their hand props backstage before they make their entrance. The sound crew is responsible for two things. The first is sound effects. Say the play calls for a car door to slam, the car engine to start, and the car to drive away. The sound tech takes care of that. In large theaters, or during musicals, when actors need to be mic'd for the audience to hear them, the sound crew is responsible for sound reinforcement. Sound reinforcement is necessary when the actor's voice is not loud enough for the audience to hear and he or she needs to be mic'd. The costume crew is responsible for anything an actor wears on stage. These hats, shoes, dresses, tuxedos are all worn by actors in the play and are considered costumes. The same item can be a costume, a hand prop, or a stage prop. In Act 1 of a play, if an actor enters carrying a coat over his arm, it would be a hand prop. In Act 2, if the same actor enters wearing the same coat, it would be considered a costume. And in Act 3, if the same coat is hanging on a coat rack, it is a set prop. In Acts 1 and 2, the actor is responsible for getting the coat. In Act 3, the props crew is responsible for getting the coat out on stage, hanging on the coat rack. The makeup crew is responsible for anything an actor applies to his or her skin or hair. For example, a fake beard, old age makeup, fake bruises, and gray hair would all be the responsibility of the makeup crew.
After all the sets are built, the costumes are fitted and sewn, the lights are hung, focused, and plugged, the props borrowed, bought, or made, the sound prepared, then it's time for the stage manager and running crews to take over.
The stage manager is with the show from the time it is cast to the final performance. He or she sits in on rehearsals to get to know all the aspects of the show almost as well as the director. When it comes time to start technical rehearsals where the actors start working with the sound, lights, props, sets, costumes, crews, the stage manager takes over the run of the show. What the stage manager says goes. He or she follows the prompt book, a book that has all the cues to the actors and technicians written into it.
Follow spot on row.
The stage manager then calls the cues over an intercom system. If there's an emergency, the stage manager is responsible for finding a solution to the emergency. If a play is like a living person, the set crew might be like an arm, the light crew another arm, the props crew one leg, the costumes crew the other leg. But the stage manager is the brain that tells all the other parts what to do.
In educational theater, the crews often continue their jobs through the performances of the show. The crews then become running crews. The main difference is that now their boss is not the tech director, but the stage manager. Let's take a look at what these running crews are called during technical rehearsals, dress rehearsals, and performances.
There are two types of technical rehearsals, dry tech and wet tech. Dry tech is a technical rehearsal without the actors present, which gives the tech crews time to rehearse their jobs. Wet tech adds the actors and can simply be called a technical rehearsal.
Technical rehearsals are stop-and-go rehearsals where the work of the actors and technicians are brought together for the first time. These rehearsals will stop and start as scenery is moved, lights go up and down, and props are set. These rehearsals are often long and tedious.
The people who run the light board during a show are called the light operators, or light ops. The person who runs a follow spot during a musical is called a follow spot op, or simply a spot op.
Whenever scenery moves on or off stage horizontally from the wings or off stage areas, this is the responsibility of the deck crew. If the scenery moves in and out from above the stage, that's the responsibility of the fly person.
Sound techs control the sound reinforcement and sound effects during a show from the mix position in the auditorium.
The props crew makes sure that all hand props are laid out on a table in labeled areas. At that point, it's the actor's responsibility to pick up and return the hand props. It's also the prop crew's responsibility to make sure that all set props are in position on stage before the audience arrives. In addition, it's their responsibility to change props on stage when necessary.
Dressers help performers into their costumes and make sure everything looks good from all angles.
Makeup crew members help the actors get into makeup that reflects their characters. Many actors do their own makeup, but difficult makeup like old age, beards, and wigs are usually applied by members of the makeup crew.